Are you an autumn girl? You love autumn. You love everything pumpkin spice, and you're so excited back to school, that fresh air. Well, guess what? Today's episode is going to be helping you look forward to back to school for yourself, even if you're not going back to school. But I want to offer to you these 5 myths that are keeping you from truly becoming who you want to be and creating not only who you want to be, but being the person who gets things done, who completes projects, who's not overspending, who's not overeating, who says what they say and say what they do. Are you ready for that? This episode is going to help you really knock off some of these internal self-defeating behaviors that you don't even realize are happening. My name is Dara Thomason, and this is the Quilter's Coach podcast, episode 214, How Fall Planning Isn't Just for School Kids. Here's how to plan your identity shift. Okay, so it's August 28th when this is coming out. For some kids, they've already gone back to school. And for you, I'm going to help you get ready for school. But before I do this, I want to share a win that was so fun. One of my clients, her husband bought her favorite ice cream. And this is something that husbands do, right? They think, "Ooh, my wife is going to really like this." And she loves Ben & Jerry's cookies and cream ice cream. And so they were going to go downstairs and watch some TV. And he said, "Guess what, honey? I bought you your favorite ice cream." And guess what she said? "Not tonight. I don't want this. This is not going to help me." And she afterwards said it wasn't as hard as she thought. So when you learn these tools and when you start implementing them, it is amazing to see what happens in everyday life. All right, let's go for it. All right, so I want you to think about your identity. So where did your identity come from in the first place? So a lot of us, our identity comes from how other people describe us. I had a client last year in my in-person retreat who just always believed she was shy. And so she went through most of her life until she was 67, until this retreat last year, where she realized she's actually not shy. And it's just been such a game changer for her because she has a quilting group. In the past, she would never have taken on different roles. She wouldn't have said certain things because she just believed that she was shy. And when she realized she wasn't shy, it was just something that her parents had said, and then she just kept believing it. She has now stepped up. She's made suggestions. She's hosted things. She's done things. And it's just amazing for her to see who she really is. And so she's becoming what we would call our authentic self. Now, authentic self is who you most believe in and who you aspire to be. Your authentic self is going to change. And your authentic self comes from being honest, facing truth, and not justifying your limitations. So I'm going to go through, these are the 5 steps that Benjamin Hardy talks about on how do you eliminate these myths of your personality. Now, I have been talking about this book a bit because it really has changed so much of my thinking. And it's when you have a kaleidoscope, you tweak it and you twist it, and then all of a sudden you have this whole new design. And it's so pretty. When I read these kinds of books and I see these different perspectives, it's like how my whole concept of menopause has completely changed because I was able to look at menopause in a completely different way. And I've been able to help so many women with menopause and debunk so many of the menopause myths. And so when I read this book and I really looked at what is keeping my clients, what is keeping me from creating the life that I really want, and why can certain people on the internet or in the world create such huge changes. And it's not because they were born a special way. Elon Musk or Oprah Winfrey. I'm just thinking of these people even Mel Robbins, who have these huge following and influence. It's not because they are born special. It's because they have learned these tools of overcoming these challenges. I'm going to lay out the 5 myths to what is keeping us from who we want to be. The first one is personality can be categorized into types. So my dad, during his career, he did a lot of leadership training at universities and corporations. And he was a big fan of Myers-Briggs. And so he would quite often talk about being an ENFJ, or, oh, that makes sense since you are an E. What the problem is it makes you feel like you're really brilliant, or you're stepping into your power. But on the flip side, it's actually limiting you to becoming more of who you want to be. And the more that you believe that you just are a certain way, then that it keeps you from creating the kind of life and the kind of experience that you really want. If you keep believing that personality is categorized into different types, then you believe that if you don't get into that category, you're out of luck, which that doesn't really make sense when you think about it. All right, the second one is personality is innate and fixed. Okay, what is the problem with that? So either you can be outgoing or not. So you were just luck of the draw, lucky you, not lucky you. And so how does that change how you step up? I like that Dallin H. Oakes said, "We make countless choices in life, some large and some seemingly small. Looking back, we can see what a great difference some of our choices made in our lives. We make better choices and decisions if we look at the alternatives and ponder where they will lead. Our present and our future will be happier if we're always conscious of the future. Where will this lead? It is always important to choosing how we label or think of ourselves. Don't choose to label ourselves or think of ourselves in terms that put a limit on a goal for which we might strive." I really love this idea that we don't just put ourselves in this box. Okay, the third myth is personality comes from your past. Malcolm Gladwell said, "Because sometimes the past deserves a second chance." I was in a mastermind with Benjamin Hardy last year. And one of the things that he said over and over is your past is actually a tool. I tell that to my clients as well. So just because you've always done something, you can actually learn so much from that, and then you can change. I think about my generations, and I think about my grandmothers who are in heaven. I believe they're in heaven watching me, and they see the technology, and they see that I can just get on a plane and I can go and help people, or they see me using technology to help my kids, or FaceTime, or they see me doing hard things and embracing all these challenges, and I see them just like congratulating me and saying, "Way to go." That's amazing to them that I can like FaceTime and do to have a podcast and help so many women. I see them just thinking like that is incredible. So use these new opportunities to help others. The next one is personality must be discovered. George Bernard Shaw said, "Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself." Okay, I'm going to say that again. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. So what happens when you realize that you are 100% responsible for your results? That's kind of scary, isn't it? It actually is really frightening to think, oh, I am responsible. And Benjamin Hardy says, personality tests are fast food for the soul. They make you believe you can discover your true self in an instant. And this is so dangerous. Just like the way I teach weight loss, I don't tell you, eat this, do this thing, do that thing, and it will just happen. I teach you principles, and then you have to figure it out. And you have to feel your feelings, and you have to work through all of that. And life is not just a math formula, because We are humans. We have feelings. We have different intricacies. We have complexities. We have surprises. We have unexpected events or situations. We have even big things like COVID and like all sorts of challenges. And so to think that everything just has to fit in a box and that everything's clean and tidy is just not helping us. Okay, the fifth myth to personality change is personality is your true and authentic self. And there's a really big problem here, and I talked about it in past episodes. These kids who will say, I don't think my teacher should make me do a public speaking because that's just not who I truly am. And I think that is just such a disservice. We have to, the more that we can push ourselves, the more we can grow. I remember being a young mom, and one day I put a little too much on my plate, which I get these big ideas, and I really wanted to change we had these patio doors, and I wanted to take the frames out of it because they were really ugly. I figured out how to take the whole door apart, and anyways, it was a lot more complicated, and then I wasn't able to do what I really wanted, and I had 3 kids, and I think I was pregnant with my 4th. And here I am managing the kids and giving them like puzzles to do and Play-Doh, and I'm trying to do this thing and it's not working out. And it's a Saturday, my husband's working, and I remember thinking, I just want someone to come and make me dinner. And then I realized I just need to treat myself nicer. I just need to manage my own expectations of myself. I laughed at myself a little, took a step back, and I said, yeah, Dara, sometimes you're a little rough on yourself. Sometimes you don't really manage your expectations, and you're kind of a mean boss. I remember just making a simple dinner. We probably had grilled cheese and soup or something, and then I made some popcorns for the kids. We had baths, and we just were able to chill. And that's what I needed. So when I say about being honest with ourselves and facing the truth, I know that I have a tendency to be a workaholic. I know that I have a tendency to try to prove myself, prove my worth. And that's not one of my favorite things about me. And so I can turn to blame and say, oh, that's just who I am. It's not my fault. That's how I was raised. Or I could just make a decision, oh, this was just the repercussions of the way I was raised and how I interpreted things. But that doesn't have to be who I am. I don't know of any of you I'm just going to tell a Bible story, okay? So when I was in grade 5, Mr. Koo told us Bible stories in public school. Now, I do believe in the Bible, so just take it how it is. But there's the story about David and the other Jewish boys that were brought to the king, and he wanted to change them. And so he said that they had to eat the king's meat. And there was a eunuch that was in charge of David and the boys, Meshach, Reshach, and Abednego. Those were their new names. And the eunuch, who was in charge of them for 2 weeks, he said to them, you have to eat the king's meat or I will be killed. And David appealed to him and he said, listen, give me 2 weeks and I will prove to you that the way that I am living my life is actually a really good way. And so the eunuch could have been killed for this. Then, of course, after 2 weeks, that they saw how David and his friends were so much better off than the other boys. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about this experience where David challenged that 2-week experience and put himself out there. So we could say he was trying to be his authentic self. In this podcast I was listening to, they said, what are some of those things that we're doing in our life that we're not getting an amazing result, but we're not taking a chance and we're not stepping up to how we really want to be? Right before we were going on vacation, I challenged my kids I said, our phones are a good tool, and there are a lot of good things about our phones. But what would it be like for you to not have your phone for 2 weeks on this vacation? I thought to myself, what is something that I do that I don't love? It's not something I'm proud of. It's something that I struggle with. One of the things I struggle with is worrying about my business. I worry about, am I doing a good enough job? Am I helping enough women? Am I fulfilling this amazing quest that I have of helping women really learn that weight loss is not about food. It's about your emotions and feeling your emotions and changing your relationship with yourself. And so sometimes I'll go down those rabbit holes and start beating myself up of, oh, Dara, if you would be a better marketer, you would help more people. I'm going on this vacation. I made a promise to myself that every time I would go down that worry road, I would say, oh no, I don't do that anymore. I don't check my phone to see if someone joined. I don't check my phone to see if someone commented on my Instagram post. I had to redirect my brain. I was learning how to be my more authentic self. And so being honest, facing that truth, and not justifying my limitations. And it was a very interesting experiment. Now, rewind a little while later, when I was reflecting on this experience, and it actually reflects my experience with weight loss. So I'm going to share that with you, and I'm going to offer to you that this is possible for you as well. So in 2018, when I was facing my youngest son going to school, and I was just like, it was so challenging for me to think, what would I do with myself all day? I get a life coach, my youngest son goes to school, and the kids leave I take the kids to school at 8:30 and I pick them up at 2:30. And I got this life coach to help me. I worked through those tools. I started working through the emotional work. I did the no flour and sugar for 6 weeks. I realized how often I turned to flour and sugar when I didn't even realize it. And then by May of 2019, I lost 30 pounds. And I'm a tall person. I started out at 205 pounds. And when I got to that weight, I was about 10 pounds more than I was when I got married. Being 164 pounds was like my ideal. I was at about 174 pounds in May of 2019. I had a photo shoot and I felt amazing. It was incredible. I just couldn't believe that this was my body. I was perimenopausal, everything. And then I just started really enjoying my life. I didn't have that constant, in my head of what's wrong with you? You're such a failure. Why'd you let your body go? I didn't have that chatter anymore. And then by December of 2019, I was down another 20 pounds. And it was shocking to me. I didn't even know that was a possibility for my body. What my challenge for you is, and with this podcast, fall planning isn't just for school kids. It's how to plan for your identity shift. What I really want to challenge you is I really want you to spend some time thinking about who do you want to be. Now, one of the ways you can do that is you can look at other people who you admire. I really like that person. Every time I'm around them, I feel like I'm just whatever that is. And then I want you to write that down. I want you to write about that. I want you to write, I really hanging out with Julie because I just find when I'm around her, I think nicer thoughts about myself and other people. Or I really like hanging out with my son, Ben, because he has so many fun opinions. He is just full of so much information and I'm always learning from him. And he's just very chill. And I really like being around a chill person. So then I start deciding, okay, I want to be more chill. Okay, what does the version of Dara look like who's more chill? And what does the version of Dara who has more information, what does that look like? Does she read really cool books, or does she what does that look like? That's what I want you to do. And I want you to look at what would it take for you to really make that decision for yourself. This is who I'm going to be. And because personality isn't permanent. It's not written in stone. It's like Dara Thomason you're not your own job description, right? You're not set in stone of like who you can or cannot be. All right. This was really a fun episode to talk to you about. And I really want you to think about this back to school. Like, even if you need to go buy yourself like new shoes or like a new journal or like a pencil case or something that signifies we're going to learn something new and make a commitment. I'm going to tell you, if you really want to go back to school and you really want to create the person you want to be, my membership or working with me one-on-one is one of the greatest decisions you've ever made. And I say that with complete sincerity because when I look at the women inside my membership and I see the changes that they have, it is one of the most humbling experiences of my life. I have 5 of my own children, which truly is the most humbling and like incredible journey that I didn't even know was possible. And working with these women, it's life-changing. So watching them, I think about you, like how fun would that be for you to give yourself that opportunity? And the first step to doing that is to coming on a call and talking to me. What's keeping you? You have nothing to lose. All right, I'll see you. Book a call. You made it to the end, and it tells me something important about you. You're not just looking for another quick fix or magic solution. You're ready to understand the real reason the scale hasn't budged, even when you know exactly what to eat and how to exercise. You're like so many quilters and creatives I work with in my lifetime membership. Creative, intelligent women who are tired of fighting their own minds. You probably tried everything and you're wondering why nothing sticks. Here's the truth. It's not about trying harder. It's about thinking differently. If you're ready to discover what's sabotaging your health goals, join me for my free training, Why Losing Weight After 40 is Harder and What to Do About It. Register in the link below. Your creative and healthy life aren't separate things. They're beautifully stitched together. Let me show you how.